Okay, so picture this. Pulling a solar panel right out of your pocket. Or maybe the walls of the building you're in, just generating their own power.
Yeah, that's kind of the fascinating world of organic solar cells, right?
Exactly. It's this really eco-friendly energy solution, but with the flexibility that's just miles beyond those, standard rigid panels we see everywhere.
We're talking integration into almost anything. Wearable tech, buildings.
Advanced materials, even specialized gear. It's
Yeah.
pretty wild. So let's unpack this tech and its market potential a bit.
And what's really, well, game-changing, I suppose, is how different it is from traditional silicon. These organic materials, they just open up totally new ways to harvest energy.
Right. Because they're flexible, they can be transparent maybe.
Exactly. All sorts of new applications become possible.
And that's what this deep dive is all about. We want to understand where this innovation stands, globally.
We've got this recent market report on organic solar cells, gives us a snapshot for 2025, but also looks ahead, forecasting out to 2033.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive, covers market size, growth rates, which regions are hot, the different ways they're being used, all that good stuff.
So our mission here really is to dig into this report, pull out the most important bits for you.
We want to answer those big questions. How big is this market now?
Yeah.
How fast is it expected to grow?
And, crucially, what are the key things driving it forward? Or maybe holding it back?
Precisely. We're aiming for a clear, insightful picture of the organic solar cell market, where it's headed, but, without drowning you in data.
Sounds good.
So let's start there. What does the report actually say about the current size of this market, like for 2025?
Okay, so the projections in the report estimate the global market for organic solar cells at USD 152.6 million in 2025.
152.6 million. Okay, that's our starting point. And where does it go from there? What's the trajectory?
Well, the report shows some pretty substantial growth. By 2033, it's projected to hit USD 753.84 million.
Wow. Okay. From 152 million to over 750 million. That's a huge leap.
It really is.
What kind of annual growth rate are we talking about to get that kind of jump?
That works out to a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of 22.2%. That's between 2025 and 2033.
22% annual growth. That's seriously taking off. What's fueling that? What's the main engine behind this rapid expansion?
The report really highlights the growing global focus on, well, sustainability, sustainable energy solutions.
Makes sense. Environmental concerns, regulations.
Exactly. And as those things ramp up, organic solar cells look pretty attractive. They've got potential for lower production costs, plus this huge range of possible uses.
Right. So it's not just panels on a roof anymore. Where are these things actually being used? What are the key applications?
The report breaks it down into a few main areas. There's building integrated photovoltaics, BIPV. Think like windows or facade panels that generate power.
Okay, BIPV. Got it.
Then there are mobile applications. That covers everything from, portable gadgets to potentially even vehicles down the line. Conventional solar applications still play a part, of course. And maybe a bit surprisingly, defense and military uses are also a notable segment.
BIPV sounds like a really big one, turning buildings into power generators. That's pretty cool. Which area is leading the pack right now?
Right now, it is BIPV. Building integrated photovoltaics holds the largest share.
And why is that, do you think?
It probably reflects that growing trend in sustainable building design. Architects and developers want to integrate renewables right into the structure. It's about looks and function.
Merging aesthetics and green tech? Yeah, I can see the appeal. But wasn't there a segment growing particularly fast?
Yes, absolutely. The report points to polymer-based organic solar cells as the fastest growing type. And in terms of application, mobile applications are seeing really rapid growth.
Ah, okay, so the demand for power on the go.
Exactly. We all want portable, flexible, lightweight power for our phones, our wearables, all that stuff. That's a huge driver.
Yeah, our reliance on mobile tech isn't exactly shrinking, is it? Okay, let's zoom out a bit. How does this break down geographically? Which regions are the big players?
So for 2025, North America is projected to have the biggest slice of the pie, over 40% actually. That's about USD 44.25 million in market size.
Over 40%. That's quite dominant. What's behind North America's lead?
Well, the report suggests it's a combination of factors. They have pretty established infrastructure, a lot of ongoing R&D investment,
Right.
and just generally strong demand for sustainable energy. Within North America, the U.S. is the bigger piece, around USD 34.92 million in 2025, with Canada at about USD 5.31 million.
Okay, so North America's out front. What about Europe? Where do they stand?
Europe's number two. They hold over 30% of the market share. That translates to USD 56.46 million in 2025.
Yeah, their growth rate.
Projected CAGR is also strong, around 20.4%. Key players there include Germany, estimated at USD 11.18 million for 2025, and the UK close behind at USD 9.49 million.
Okay, so North America and Europe are the current heavyweights. But I thought the report mentioned one region with, like, exceptionally high growth potential.
You remembered right. That's the Asia-Pacific region, APAC.
Right, APAC.
They hold around 23% market share in 2025, which is about USD 36.62 million. But here's the kicker. They're projected to have the fastest growth, a CAGR of 25.2% from 2025 to 2033.
Wow, 25% in APAC. That's really booming. What's driving that acceleration over there?
Well, China's a huge factor within APAC. Their market's estimated at USD 15.38 million in 2025. But more broadly, the whole region is pushing hard on adopting renewables.
Government initiatives and energy needs.
Yeah, exactly. Big government pushes, rising energy demand. It just creates this really fertile ground for innovative tech, like organic solar cells, especially for, rapidly growing cities and big infrastructure projects.
That makes a lot of sense given the scale of development there.
Yeah.
What about the rest of the world? South America, Middle East, Africa?
They currently have smaller market shares, definitely, but the report shows they also have significant growth potential. We're talking CAGRs of 22.9% for South America, 23.6% for the Middle East, and 22.4% for Africa.
Still very respectable growth rates.
Oh, yeah. Their 2025 market sizes are estimated around USD 5.8 million, USD 6.1 million, and USD 3.36 million, respectively. So, starting smaller, but definitely growing.
Okay, so North America leads now, but keep an eye on APAC for that explosive growth. Let's dig into the why behind all this growth globally. What are the main drivers?
The report really boils it down to two key things. First, that global push for sustainability we talked about. Cleaner energy, it's driven by regulations, government targets, but also corporate ESG goals becoming more important.
Environmental, social governance.
Right. And second, just the technology itself is getting better. Ongoing improvements in the efficiency, the performance of these organic semiconductor materials. They're becoming more practical for more things, especially flexible electronics.
Better tech makes them more attractive.
You got it. Think of it like the materials are constantly getting upgraded, pushing what these cells can actually do.
Sustainability and better tech, powerful combination. But it can't all be smooth sailing. Are there big challenges or roadblocks holding the market back?
Yeah, there are definitely hurdles. The report points out a couple of main ones. One is efficiency and lifespan. Compared to traditional silicon cells, current organic ones generally don't convert sunlight as efficiently, and they might not last quite as long.
Okay, so performance gaps.
Right, and that can limit how viable they are for certain big commercial energy projects. The other challenge is cost and scale. Production costs can still be high, and scaling up manufacturing to really hit mass market levels and get those costs down is tough.
So huge potential, but still some tech and economic obstacles for, like, universal adoption. What about key trends? What's shaping the future direction here?
Well, we're seeing some really exciting stuff in material science. It's boosting that power conversion efficiency significantly. The report mentions things like wide bandgap semiconductors, basically materials that can grab more energy from a wider range of sunlight, and also nanomaterials, tiny engineered materials that can improve flexibility, maybe even transparency.
Nanomaterials. Interesting.
And beyond the materials themselves, there's just this booming demand for solar solutions that are light, maybe see-through, and definitely wearable.
The wearable tech angle again.
Exactly. It's pushing innovation in flexible organic cells, but also related tech like perovskite solar cells, and how to actually embed these into smart clothes, IoT devices, and so on.
Yeah, the idea of your jacket powering your phone. That's pretty compelling stuff. Now, something else the report mentioned was external factors, specifically trade tariffs. It mentioned the Liberation Day tariffs from 2025. How did that shake things up?
Oh, that was a major disruptor, yeah. When the U.S. introduced those pretty hefty tariffs in 2025, like 10% up to nearly 50% on some things, it really sent ripples through the whole energy sector.
Why was the impact so big?
Because the industry is just so reliant on global supply chains. For crucial stuff like rare earth elements, standard solar panels, wind turbine parts, lithium for batteries. It's all interconnected globally.
And it wasn't just the U.S. acting alone, right? There were responses.
That's right. It happened against the backdrop of existing U.S.-China trade friction, which already involved tariffs going both ways. Then you had the EU and Canada hitting back with retaliatory tariffs, so it just made the whole global supply chain picture much more complicated and, frankly, expensive.
More expensive and more disrupted. Can you give some specific examples of how those tariffs hit the energy sector?
Sure. Like, there was a 20% tariff on rare earths that directly bumped up the cost of making EVs and other clean tech that needs those materials.
Okay.
Then a 25% tariff on imported traditional solar panels. That obviously made solar installations more expensive. Wind turbines faced tariffs too, 15 to 25% on parts, leading to delays and higher project costs. Even oil and gas saw tariffs on some equipment, making companies rethink where they got their gear.
So it sounds like a widespread cost increase across the energy board.
Pretty much. The report estimated that solar and wind projects, for instance, saw costs jump maybe 10 to 30% just because of these tariffs. EV makers felt the pinch too, with battery components getting pricier.
Must have created a lot of uncertainty for companies. How did they navigate that? How did they adapt?
Well, the report stresses how vital market research became. Companies really had to double down on understanding their supply chains where were the weak spots. They had to track prices like hawks, look for alternative suppliers in regions maybe not hit by tariffs.
Trying to find workarounds.
Exactly. And using tools like AI, predictive analytics to try and anticipate disruptions. Plus, just staying on top of the constantly changing trade rules, doing scenario planning. What if this happens? What if that happens?
Proactive measures.
Right. And we saw companies like NextEra Energy and First Solar making concrete moves, diversifying who they bought from, investing more in domestic or regional production to shorten supply lines, using digital tools to manage procurement better, basically building resilience against these tariff shocks.
So the tariffs really forced a strategic rethink on sourcing and production. Okay, last piece here. The companies actually making these organic solar cells, who are the key players mentioned?
The report names several important ones: Helitech from Germany, Armor based in France, Solarmer Energy Inc. in the US, and Infinity PV APS out of Denmark.
So a mix of European and U.S. companies at the forefront.
Yeah, these are some of the key names pushing the envelope on the technology. They're focused on, improving efficiency, finding new ways to use the cells, and crucially trying to make manufacturing cheaper and more scalable.
And presumably having feet on the ground in those key markets we discussed is important too.
Oh, absolutely. The report makes that clear. Being strong in regions with high renewable adoption, supportive governments, good R&D infrastructure that gives these companies a real competitive edge.
Okay, so let's try and summarize the key takeaways from this report. The organic solar cell market. It's definitely set for some serious growth.
Yeah, a strong trajectory, driven by that sustainability push and constant tech improvements.
With the Asia-Pacific region really looking like the one to watch for the fastest expansion.
Right, though North America holds the biggest share for now.
And while there are still challenges of efficiency, lifespan need to keep improving these material science breakthroughs. We're chipping away at those.
Definitely. And we can't forget the impact of things like global trade policies, like those tariffs, which really add another layer of complexity for everyone involved.
It's a dynamic space, for sure.
That sums it up well. And the really exciting part is those unique properties, the flexibility, the potential transparency, maybe lower cost down the line. It just opens doors traditional solar can't.
Which leads perfectly into our final thought for you, the listener. Thinking about these unique features, flexibility, transparency potential, lower-cost production routes, what really unexpected areas could organic solar cells revolutionize, beyond just standard power generation?
Could we see them woven into fashion, completely changing how buildings look and function, maybe even popping up in unexpected healthcare applications?
Lots to think about there.
And remember, this deep dive just skimmed the surface. The full report has way more detail on specific uses, deep regional breakdowns, who's competing with whom.
It's a fascinating field, constantly evolving. Definitely worth keeping an eye on how it reshapes our energy future.